I found the wallet on a Tuesday, leather, thick with cash, no ID, just a name embossed on a card, E. Alcott. I should have pocketed it. Rent was due, my pantry was empty, and my boots had more duct tape than shred. Instead, I returned it. Thought that'd be the end of it. I didn't know that one act would lead me to a forgotten millionaire, a legacy built in silence, and the kind of wisdom that doesn't just change your life, it rebuilds it brick by brick. You ever watch your own life from the outside like it belongs to someone else? That was me. 24, broke as a cracked church bell, living in the kind of neighborhood where the ice cream truck didn't even bother to stop. My apartment, if you could call it that, had 1 window, 2 leaks, and 0 future. I worked night shifts at a scrapyard and slept during the day when the rats were least active. So when I found that wallet, everything paused. It was lying half under a bench outside the old bank on Monroe. Leather, rich and worn, not the cheap kind. I opened it cautiously like it might bite. Inside, 6 crisp hundreds, a black Amex, and a business card. No ID, no license. Just the card, heavy stock, raised ink. E. Alcott & Sons Masonry. I'd seen the name before, painted in gold on a row of brick buildings downtown. Alcott Masonry was old money, but not Wall Street kind, more like foundation of the city kind. The kind people forget built everything they stand on. I could have taken the cash. God knows I needed it. Rent was overdue, my shoes had more air holes than fabric, and I'd skipped dinner the night before. But something about the name, it felt weighty. Like returning it might matter more than keeping it. So I went. The address on the card led me across the bridge, into the part of town where lawns had landscapers and doors had brass knockers the size of my forearm. I didn't belong there. People looked at me like I might steal the flowers. I found the house, stone walls, a sloped roof, and ivy that curled around the porch like it owned the place. I rang the bell. A moment passed. Then another. I was about to bail when the door creaked open. He was tall, thin, and moved with the kind of slow deliberation that said he didn't care about time. His face had seen decades. Steel gray hair, deep eyes. Sharp suit, no tie. No smile either. Yes, he said. I held out the wallet. Found this. Thought it might be yours. He took it, looked it over. No emotion. Then, where? By the bank on Monroe. Half under a bench. He tucked it into his coat, turned to leave, then paused. You didn't take the money? No. He looked at me then. Really looked. Why not? I shrugged. Didn't seem right? He nodded. Said nothing for a while. Just stared, like he was peeling back my skin with his eyes. Finally, he said, come back tomorrow. Noon. Bring work clothes. I blinked. Why? Because you passed the first test, he said, and shut the door in my face. I stood there dumbfounded, the wind picking up around me like even nature didn't know what to make of that. I should have walked away. Should have let the moment die like so many others. But something in me, a flicker, a hunger, maybe even hope, held on. I showed up the next day. That was the beginning. He was waiting in the driveway when I arrived. Same suit, different color. Slate gray this time. The man looked like he ironed his soul. A faded flannel shirt and worn jeans hung on a hook beside the front door. He tossed them to me like a quarterback. Put those on. We've got bricks to move. No introduction. No small talk. Just that. I didn't argue. Not because I was afraid, though there was that, but because my gut told me this was one of those moments where speaking meant you didn't get it. He led me around the back of the property where a short retaining wall had collapsed, bricks scattered like drunk soldiers after a war. A wheelbarrow sat tipped on its side. Next to it, 2 pairs of gloves and a bucket of mortar that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. You ever laid brick before? He asked. No, sir. Good. Means you haven't learned bad habits. Then he showed me. 1 row. Just 1. He moved with the patience of a saint but the precision of a surgeon. Buttered the mortar with just enough pressure. Placed each brick like it mattered to the world, whether it was an 1/8 inch off. Every wall tells the truth, he said. Even if the builder lies. He handed me the trowel. Now you. I butchered the first 3 bricks. Slapped mortar like jelly, dropped 1 corner first, and smeared enough grit across the 4th to make it look like a crime scene. He didn't scold me. Just watched. Silent. An hour passed. Then 2. Sweat dripped down my back. My arms shook. I kept adjusting my grip, adjusting my stance, cursing under my breath when the brick wouldn't sit right. I'd never felt more useless in my life. Finally, I stopped. I don't think I'm built for this. He stepped beside me, picked up a crooked brick I'd laid, and held it up to the sun. You see that? He said, tilting it slightly. It's off by a hair. I nodded. He grinned. Not wide, just a tug at the corner of his mouth. Took me 3 years to see that when I started. You saw it in 3 hours. He reached into his coat and pulled out a notebook. Black leather, no markings. This is yours, he said, handing it to me. What is it? Lessons, he said. Or nonsense. Depends what you do with them. I opened it. Inside were pages of scribbled notes, quotes, equations, sketches of hands and joints, diagrams of pressure angles and load stress. Some of it was unreadable. Some of it looked like poetry. Why me? I asked. You don't even know me. He looked me dead in the eye. That's exactly why. He turned and walked toward the house, slow and deliberate, leaving me holding a book full of wisdom I didn't understand and a heart that beat like something important had just started. I came back the next day, and the day after that. For a week we rebuilt that wall. Every brick laid was a conversation. Not out loud, he didn't waste words, but in silence, in effort, in repetition, in the way the sweat on your brow teaches you more than a lecture ever could. He started telling me stories in bits and pieces, about building cathedrals in Spain in his 20s, about laying stone paths through the Blue Ridge for cabins that only existed on maps, about the time he worked a job in Detroit in winter and came back with frostbitten fingers and a broken heart. He talked about failure like it was a friend he'd grown up with, talked about money like it was something that should never own you. Money's not wealth, he said one morning, hauling bricks up the slope. Wealth is knowing you can start over and still come out whole. On Friday, I asked him what he did before all this, before the bricks and the quiet house and the lost letter air about him. He just said, built a company, buried a son, gave up on both. Then he went back to buttering mortar. I didn't push, not then, but those words stuck. They had weight, the kind you feel in your bones even after the conversation's long dead. The wall was nearly finished by Sunday. My hands were cut, my shoulders burned, and my back had a kink I didn't know how to name, but I'd never felt stronger or more useful. When we laid the final brick, he dusted his gloves off and looked at me like he was seeing something that hadn't existed the week before. You're not done, he said. Not by a long shot. What comes next? He smiled barely. Demolition. I blinked. What? Tomorrow. We tear down the east wall of the shed. I stared at him, confused. Why? He glanced at the wall we'd just built. Because sometimes the hardest thing to build is the courage to destroy what no longer holds. I didn't sleep much that night, because I knew that wall he was talking about wasn't made of bricks at all. The next morning I showed up early, too early. The sky was still gray, the kind of dull overcast that makes everything feel like it's holding its breath. Mr. Alcott was already outside, coffee in one hand, sledgehammer in the other. He pointed to the east wall of the shed. It leaned slightly, like an old man waiting for a bus. Paint flaked like sunburnt skin. Vines crawled up the side like they were trying to keep it standing. Today, he said, tossing me the hammer, you learn what it costs to tear something down the right way. I thought demolition would feel good. Cathartic, maybe. Didn't. Every swing rattled my bones. The wood didn't give up easy. Nails screamed. Boards splintered. Dust choked the morning air until it smelled like old sweat and rotted history. Why not just bulldoze it? I asked between swings. Because speed makes cowards, he replied. If you don't feel the weight of what you're destroying, you won't respect what comes next. We worked for hours, stripping away the rotten frame, removing beams that cracked like brittle bones. Every board we removed revealed something worse. Termites, water damage, old wiring twisted like veins. It was more than a wall. It was a mausoleum of neglect. At one point, I found an old photograph nailed inside the wall. Black and white. A boy young, maybe 9, smiling in front of the same shed, back when it was new. Beside him, a tall man with a jawline I recognized. Mr. Alcott. I held it up to him. He paused. His eyes didn't move from the frame. That was my son, he said. Elliot. I didn't speak. He helped me build this shed. First project we ever did together. He measured every beam. Even made the chalk lines crooked on purpose just to see if I'd fix him. What happened to him? I asked quietly. Mr. Alcott looked out at the horizon. He died chasing something I taught him to want. I waited. He thought success meant speed, volume, empire building. He pushed too hard. Worked 20-hour days. Cut corners. Trusted men with clean hands and dirty hearts. One night, a scaffolding gave out on a site in New Jersey. They blamed the wind. I blamed myself. He took the photo from me, wiped it with his thumb. I spent the next year tearing everything down. The company, the brand, the reputation. Sold it all. Every damn brick. Then I came here. And started over? I asked. No, he said. Started right. We stood in silence. The wind picked up, rustling through the wreckage of what used to be a shed, now a skeleton of its former self. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He turned toward me, eyes sharp. Because I see the same hunger in you. The same drive. But if you don't learn where it leads, you'll end up just as empty. He pulled something from his coat. Another notebook. This one was thinner. Spiral-bound, edges curled. Handwritten on the first page, plans for the future that matter. Your turn, he said, handing it to me. Start writing down what you want to build. But only the things you'd be willing to put your name on. What does that mean? It means if you're not proud to sign it, don't waste your life building it. That night, I didn't drink. Didn't watch TV. I sat in my room and stared at that notebook until 2 a.m. I wrote 3 words. A name worth knowing. Didn't know what that meant yet. But I'd learn. Things changed after the shed came down. Mr. Alcott stopped giving instructions. He just pointed to a section of the property, to a toolbox, to a foundation line, and watched. I didn't get it at first. Thought he was losing interest. But then I realized he was testing something deeper. Initiative. Discipline. Vision. You lay enough brick, he said one morning, you stop needing a blueprint. You start building from feel. That's when it gets dangerous. Why? Because feel can lie. Plans can't. He handed me the keys to his pickup that afternoon. There's a site in East Glen. Old foundation I poured years ago. Take a look. Tell me what's wrong with it. No map. No address. Just a town name and a riddle. I found the place. Took me 2 hours and a sandwich from a gas station that tasted like regret. The site was a shell, a half-finished house with weeds growing through the cracks. It looked like time had paused mid-chapter. I walked the foundation. Counted paces. Checked levels. Then I found it, a hairline crack just at the northwest corner beneath the joists. Small but dangerous. The kind of flaw that doesn't scream, it whispers. Until one day, the whole thing shifts. I took a photo. Wrote notes. Brought them back. Mr. Alcott barely looked at the phone. Just nodded. That crack, I said, it was from the frost, wasn't it? Bad seal on the outer layer. Water seeped in, froze, expanded. You see it? He asked. I felt it, I said. He smiled, not proud. Relieved. You're ready, he said. Ready for what? To make your own mistakes. He handed me a rolled-up plan. Hand-drawn blueprints on thick vellum. The kind that smelled like history. Design it. Build it. From scratch. It's your project. I unrolled it. A cottage. Modest. Elegant. Wraparound porch. 2 beds, 1 bath. Stone fireplace. Vaulted ceiling with exposed beams. You want me to build this here? I asked. He shook his head. I want you to build it somewhere that needs it. Needs it? He pointed to the sky. Wherever the roof will mean more than the walls. That line lived in my head for days. Where do you build something meaningful? I found the answer 3 towns over in a place called Bonneridge. The flood had hit them hard 2 springs ago. FEMA left half the homes untouched. Insurance dropped the rest. I'd worked a hauling job there once, cleaning moldy drywall and shoveling river mud out of basements. They remembered me. I remembered them. A family, a mother and 2 kids had been living in a trailer held together with tarp and tape. No plumbing. No insulation. Just waiting to be forgotten. I showed them the blueprint. It's not charity, I said. But it's yours if you'll help me build it. The mother cried. The kids didn't. They just stared at the drawing like it was magic. I called Mr. Alcott. I found my spot, I said. Then don't waste time, he replied. Foundations set faster when you believe in what's above them. The next week was chaos. Permits. Supplies. Mud. Pain. I slept on site, ate from a cooler, and built like the wind was chasing me. The kids brought me lemonade in coffee mugs. The mother helped sand the interior frames with hands that hadn't touched peace in years. We built it from the ground up, just like he taught me. But when I returned to show him, the house was quiet. Lights off. Truck gone. Front door cracked open like a broken promise. I stepped inside. Called his name. Nothing. But there was a note on the kitchen table. A short one. Mason. You're ready. I left before you could thank me because thanks was never the point. Now build. Not just homes. People. Ideas. Legacy. When you build something right, it doesn't need a name on the mailbox. It echoes in the lives inside. Alcott. I stood there for a long time. And just like that, the man who gave me nothing but tools and time had given me everything. Weeks passed. The cottage at Bonner Ridge finished under budget and 2 days early. The mother cried when we handed her the keys. Her son hugged my leg like he was trying to anchor himself to something solid. I told her there was no debt, no catch, no press release. Just a house. Built the right way. I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt haunted. Because Mr. Alcott was gone. No forwarding address. No message beyond the note. No calls. No trace. The house where he'd tested me, taught me, broken me down, and rebuilt me stood empty. Not abandoned. Just done. Like a chapter closed before I'd finished reading it. But life didn't slow down. Word got out. First, a pastor from Hollow Creek called. We heard what you did in Bonner. Think you could help us rebuild our chapel. Then a school board in East Harrow. Then a community center in Shelby Point. Projects piled up like bricks on a pallet. People weren't just hiring me, they were trusting me. Not because of some flashy website or a glossy resume, but because word of mouth moved faster than lightning when it came wrapped in hope. And the truth? I wasn't ready. I was still just a guy with work boots and borrowed wisdom trying to sound like I had it together. My hands knew how to build, sure, but my heart? It hadn't caught up yet. Then came the visit. Late one evening, I pulled into the driveway of my tiny rental house, bare porch bulb buzzing like a dying fly, and found a man sitting on my steps. Dress shirt. No tie. Beard trimmed so close it looked like it had been filed. He stood when I approached. You Mason? Who's asking? He didn't answer. Just held out a leather portfolio. I opened it. Inside, photographs. Of me. Building at Bonner Ridge. Meetings in Hollow Creek. Sitting with kids on the curb in Shelby Point. I flipped through. Slowly. Numb. Who are you? I work with the Alcott Foundation, he said. Used to anyway. Didn't know there was a foundation. There wasn't, he said. Not officially. Not until Mr. Alcott brought your name up 6 months ago. I blinked. He what? He believed in the idea of earned potential. Said you reminded him of someone he lost. My throat went dry. His son, I said quietly. The man nodded. You weren't his blood. But you were the first person since Elliot that made him believe again. I didn't know what to say. He continued. Before he disappeared, he rewrote his trust. Assigned residual rights to a development account. It's yours. I backed up. No. I don't want his money. It's not money, the man said. It's materials. Labor. Access. He knew if he gave you cash, you'd never take it. So he left you tools. Just bigger ones. He handed me another folder. Inside, architectural blueprints. Not houses this time. Campuses. Vocational centers. Blueprints for places that taught others what Mr. Alcott taught me. Trades. Integrity. Self-respect. My hands shook. He wanted you to decide where they go, the man said. You and the people who need them most. I looked up. Why didn't he just say goodbye? The man hesitated. Because Harlan Alcott never said goodbye. He built exits. Not endings. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, he said. He left you something else. In a box labeled Legacy. You'll find it where he started. And just like that, he was gone. Legacy. The word dug into my chest like a nail pulled halfway through. I had no clue where to go next. So I started digging. I didn't know what where he started meant. He never talked about his childhood. Barely mentioned his past at all unless it had a trowel in it. So I did what any desperate man would do. I called every construction registry, real estate archive, and tax record office in 3 counties. The clue came from a clerk in Shelby County. There's one permit from the 60s, she said. A Harold G. Alcott filed it when he was 17. Small property, 1 structure, handwritten diagram. She scanned it. Sent it to me. A plot of land. Tiny. Remote. At the edge of a place called Winston Hollow, 30 minutes past where the road gives up and the forest begins. I drove there the next morning, half hoping I was wrong. I wasn't. At the end of a muddy trail, surrounded by whispering pine trees and fog that felt like memory, stood a single stone cabin. Moss-covered. Solid. Untouched by time. The lock on the door was old. Rusted. I didn't have a key, but I didn't need one. The hinges gave way with a solid push and I stepped inside. It was dark. Cold. Dust floated like ghosts in slivers of light through the broken roof. There was no furniture. Just a cot frame, a small wood stove, and shelves carved straight into the stone wall. And there on the middle shelf was a wooden box. Stamped into the lid, burned deep by hand. Legacy. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside. A pocket watch ticking still. A photograph of a young Harlan Alcott standing shirtless beside a foundation pit, sunburned and smiling. And a stack of letters. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. All addressed to my son. I sat on the floor and read the first. Elliot, I don't know when I'll be brave enough to give you this. Maybe never. But I need you to know how I became the man you think I am. Not through power. Through failure. Through cold nights in this very cabin when I had nothing but calluses and questions. The letters weren't lessons. They were confessions. Fear. Grief. Anger. Love. One per year. Each one a stone in the foundation of a man who'd lost everything and still chosen to build something better with what remained. The last letter was dated 6 months before I met him. It ended with, "If you're reading this, you're not Elliot. But maybe you're someone who needs this more. And maybe I still have time to teach you the final truth. We don't build to leave something behind. We build so others have something to stand on." I didn't cry. Not then. But my hands didn't stop shaking for an hour. I carried the box out with me like it weighed more than any stone I'd lifted. I called the man from the foundation. "Tell me what I have access to." He hesitated. "It's considerable. Enough for at least 5 centers. More, if you build lean." "Good," I said. "We'll build lean. We'll build loud. And we'll build with names on the beams, not plaques on the doors." Because this wasn't about honoring Mr. Alcott. It was about continuing him. The first vocational center went up in Coldwater. Not because it was the easiest place or the cheapest, but because it was the most forgotten. A mill town hollowed out from the inside. 1 grocery store. 3 bars. No jobs that didn't involve a badge or a back brace. We broke ground in October. I didn't hire a crew, I recruited one. Kids who dropped out of high school. Men who'd aged out of employment. Women who'd raised families and never been handed a damn thing but responsibility. They showed up every morning. Hammered. Sawed. Learned. I taught what I knew. How to level a floor. How to fix a line. How to measure twice and cut once, not just with wood but with decisions. Some days I felt like I was drowning in the weight of it all. Supply delays. Frozen pipes. City inspections that showed up like surprise quizzes. But then I'd look around at the girl welding beams with a grin like she'd found a secret power, at the teenager framing drywall like it was art, and I'd remember what Mr. Alcott told me. Legacy doesn't look like a statue. It looks like momentum. On the day we finished the exterior, I climbed the scaffolding, pulled out a marker, and wrote across the highest beam. "This place was built by those who weren't handed a thing." Then I signed it. Mason Alcott. Yeah, I took his name. Not legally. Not in the eyes of the state. But on that beam? On that moment? It was the only name that made sense. Because I wasn't just a kid who found a wallet. I was proof that one man's belief, one choice, can echo across years like a hammer ringing off stone. The Coldwater Center opened its doors that spring. Then the next one in Pine Hollow. Then a third in Cedar Junction. Each one with a wall of handprints, every person who helped build it stamped in paint, fingerprints and all. We don't do plaques. We don't do ribbon cuttings. We don't care about headlines. We care about hands. Covered in dirt. Doing real work. Last week, a kid came up to me. 17. Scar on his cheek. Voice like gravel. "You really used to be broke?" he asked. "Broke as hell," I said. He nodded. "So how'd you get here?" I smiled. Picked up a hammer and met a ghost. He didn't get it. Not yet. But someday he would. Maybe he'll write his name on a beam too. And maybe when he does, he'll understand the truth that changed everything for me. You don't need to be born into legacy to leave one behind. You just need a reason. And a damn good foundation.